Welcome back, Hive Mind. This is Shalzar with Hive Mind Gaming, coming at you with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to take a look at something that was leaked months and months and months ago. So there are several videos out on this, but if you're a newer player, you've probably not seen any of this. And what makes it relevant again is because one of the champs that was leaked months and months and months ago is going to be available this coming Friday. So I just wanted to make sure that it just reminded me of all those leaked videos or all those leaked champions. So I just wanted to do a video. I wasn't even doing videos at the time, so I never made a video on them. And so I just figured I would take the opportunity to go ahead and make a video on all that. So for all the newer players and anyone who missed it back then, hadn't already seen it, you can come and take a look at this one and see what is in the future for Raid Shadow Legends, some of the champions they are working on. Alright, so let's get into it. Alright, so the first one is Kreela Witcharm. She's the champ coming out this coming Friday with their new fusion event, using air quotes when I say fusion event. And I have another video. I'll link that in the description. But I do have another video that explains how that fusion works. Spoiler alert, I don't like it. Alright, so let's get into her kit here. So first off, she is a legendary with the orcs. Which is awesome because the orcs need more legendaries. Problem is, she is a magic affinity. There's already a couple of magic affinity orcs. Let's take a look at that. So if you look at the orcs here, you've got two magic affinities, a force, and two void. There are no spirit at all. So, yeah, I mean, what they need is another spirit, another spirit affinity champ. But because I'm not sure why they seem to do this a lot in certain areas where they don't have any of one of the affinities in certain areas of each faction. So I don't know. I don't know why they do that, but they seem to do that a lot. But alright, so let's get back to her. So her A1 is attacks one enemy, places a shield buff equal to 10% of the champion's max HP on the ally with the lowest HP for 2 turns. So pretty good, actually. Really good, actually. It does book up to get better shields. I don't know if I would care to put books in there, but if you're in game, that would definitely make that good. Her attack is down here in the bottom left corner. Is those numbers in the bottom left corner basically tells you what her multiplier is on her attack. So her attack is 4.6, a multiplier of 4.6, which is pretty good. So for a support character, she should hit pretty hard. On paper, she looks like she's gonna hit pretty hard. Alright, so her A2 multiplier of 5.1, so again, pretty good. This is the ability that everyone's going to love, right? It's attacks one enemy, so you choose an enemy, you attack that person, and you place a stun buff, place a stun debuff for 1 turn. Now, keep in mind, there's no percentage to do that. It just does it. So, as long as your accuracy is good, then you're going to stun whoever you're attacking. Then, on top of that, you have an 80% chance of teaming up with 3 random allies to attack a random enemy. So, this also books up to a 100% chance. So, it's the blender meta right now anyway, and this is what the blender is. So it's 80% chance to teaming up with 3 random allies to attack a random enemy, allies joining a course attack with their default skills. Now, it's a 5.1 multiplier on the first hit and a 5.1 multiplier on the second hit, but of course that's at random, and then all your friends join in. So when you're attacking with Skull Crown and Sinesha, it doesn't matter that it's random because they're going to hit everyone anyway. So, I mean, she's just a great ability, and it books down to a 3-turn cooldown. So, I mean, really good A2. Her A3 is also good. It's a 4.4 multiplier, which that's really good for an AoE. So, an attack that hits everyone. So it places a 50% increased attack buff and a 30% increased crit rate buff on all allies for 3 turns, and then she attacks everyone. So it's great. It's really good because it goes along with the meta now, or it's showing the evolution of the game, where instead of attacking and then putting the buffs, which is what a lot of champs used to do in the old part of the game. Now they're placing the debuffs, then attacking, so she can take full advantage of those buffs. So it's great, and her stats are just phenomenal. So also keep in mind, guys, that these were leaked, so there could be a good chance that some of this stuff is different once she finally comes out, and all these other champs as well. So just keep that in mind while you're watching this video. All right. So our next champ is Thea, the Tomb Angel. All right. So she is Knight's Revenant. She is a legendary. Her stats are okay. She's an attack-based champion, and she is Force affinity. So let's take a look at the Knight's Revenant. Now, they can actually use Force because they've only got 1 Spirit and 1 Force. They could actually use a Magic affinity, actually, for the Knight's Revenant. But again, it's a Force. So again, they take the opportunity to not fill in the gaps that they truly need to fill in. So anyway, let's get into it. Alright, so her A1 is a 2.0 modifier. So it's not going to hit that hard. And then the actual ability is attacks 2 times at random. I don't really care for that. Has a 75% chance of placing a Hex debuff for 5 turns. Now, that's a lot. For 5 turns is good. This debuff cannot be resisted, and each critical hit decreases the cooldown of the Not of This World skill by 1 turn. So Not of This World is one of her abilities. Alright, so the important thing to note here is that the Minotaur is the one that is the only other person right now that uses the Hex debuff. Now, what the Hex debuff means is that when the Minotaur hits you and you have the Hex debuff, he does double the damage. So that's really strong, and she's putting it on 2 champs randomly every 5 turns. So, and this books up to 100% chance to actually land this debuff as long as your accuracy is good enough. So that's actually really strong. But the question I have, because it's not really explained, because when you read the description of Hex, it says the Minotaur places this, and the Minotaur has the ability to do double damage if you have the Hex. Does that mean that she's the only one that does the double damage, or does everyone do double damage that is attacking the person with hex? So that's the question I would have for the devs, or what, whoever could possibly answer that. So if you know the answer to that, put it in the comments. I would appreciate it, because that's something I personally would like to know. Each critical hit decreases the cooldown of her Not of This World skill by 1 turn. So let's take a look at Not of This World. So her Not of This World skill is her A3, and it places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 3 turns, grants an extra turn. Now, I don't really care for skills like this because, one, it puts a perfect veil on her. Yeah, great. Puts it for 3 turns, grants an extra turn. So that automatically drops that by 1, right? So one of those 3 turns is completely eaten up by the grants an extra turn. I'm not complaining about the grants an extra turn, but I mean, technically you're only getting the buff for 2 turns. And then it's on a 6-turn cooldown, which books down to a 5-turn cooldown. Then with your grant an extra turn, that drops it down again. So from the time she places it to the time that she can put it back on, there's 2 turns that she won't be able to have perfect veil up. I mean, not so bad, I guess. So that one's not bad. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think about that ability in the comments. All right, so we're going to go back to her A2, which is attacks all enemies. Damage increases by 50% for each hex debuff on the enemy team. Stacks up to 300%. Removes all hex debuffs from all enemies after attacking. Damage based on attack. And the damage multiplier is 3.5. Wow, that seems really strong. I don't know about you guys. What do you think? So if the hex debuff means that she's going to do double the damage, and then her damage increases by 50% more for every hex on the enemy, and it can stack up to 300%. So for everyone who's hexed, that's if she's got max hexes and it stacks up to 300%, that means it can literally be 400% damage done to whoever you're hitting. Or if it's double, would that? No, because that would be stacks up to 300%. The damage is increasing, so the damage is actually at 300%. And then when she hits, that's when the damage is multiplied times 2. I can only imagine. So that would be 600% damage. Ooh, that can't be right. I mean, am I doing the math right on that? Because that just seems like that would hit hard. I mean, hard. Oof. Yeah. I mean, she's wow. Yeah. That would be rough if that's how that worked. I mean, that is literally another Rotus type broken character if that's how that works. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about that, guys. All right, so then her A4 is a passive. It has a 50% chance of placing a true fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn when an enemy loses 30% or more of their max HP in a single hit. Okay, so with her A2, of course they're going to have a single hit that does more than 50% or more than 30% of their max HP. Holy crap, man. She is strong. That is a good champion right there. Yeah, I like her a lot. Tell me in the comment what you guys think about Thea the Tomb Angel. All right, so our next champ is Tiktha Blackscale. Looks like he's of the Lizardman variety. He is a legendary. He is a HP champ, which is always good. And he is Spirit Affinity. All right, let's take a look at the Lizardman. Oh, hey, yay! They finally did it. They finally took a champ and put them in there where they actually need that champ in that affinity. So they actually the lizardmen need lots of love because their faction, let's face it, sucks. I mean, a lot of their legendaries are just fantastic. I mean, pretty much all but one is just a great. They're all fantastic. Um, all but the one, of course. But they still need lots of love. I mean, they really need some better epics and some better rares. But anyway, so they finally got it right. They went with a Spirit Affinity Lizardman. So let's look at him. All right, so he's got great HP, which makes sense since he's an HP champ. He's got a pretty good attack and defense, good speed, pretty much all around good except for his accuracy. All right, so let's get into his kit. All right, his A1. It's see here's where you get into the different multipliers. Now keep in mind the reason why this guy's multiplier is only 0.08 compared to some of the others that were like 5.1 is because this is going to be based off his HP. HP can be scaled crazy high, and that's why. So this ability is attacks all enemies and then heals by 10% of the damage inflicted. And the damage is based on HP. So not horrible. I mean, it's a self-heal to help sustain him. His A2 is on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to a 3-turn cooldown. This places a shield buff on all allies equal to 20% of this champion's max HP by 2 turns. Places a 5% poison debuff on attackers for 1 turn when hit while under these shields. Wow. Okay. So while under these shields. So that would lend me to believe that it doesn't matter who the bad guys are attacking. If they're attacking anyone on your team, as long as they have this shield on, the enemy gets a 5% poison debuff. And there's not even a chance to do that. It just does it. Wow, that's really good. That is fantastic, actually. That is a really good ability. So, like in Clan Boss, when he hits your whole team and your whole team's under that shield, that's 5 poisons he would get right then and there. I love it. I think it's fantastic. That is a great ability. All right, and then his A3. This champion will receive damage equal to 50% of their max HP. This will happen even if it kills the champion. Okay, so this is a self defecating ability. All right, then attacks all enemies, dealing damage equal to 50% of this champion's HP. Has a 50% chance of placing a sleep debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. This attack always lands on a normal hit. Alright, so it books down to a 4-turn. It can book up, I guess, let's see, buff or debuff chance, so that would be with the 50%, so it can book up to 75% of placing the sleep. I don't think it has anything to do with the 50% damage or 50% damage to him. Damage is based on at a 0.5 multiplier. So I think it's going to hit pretty hard. The champion will receive damage equal to 50% of their max HP. So whatever his max HP, he's going to take half his life. So if he's under 50% health, I think he's going to die before he actually attacks, because he does this, I would assume, the reason why it's in this order, because he does this first. He takes 50% as long as he's still alive. Then he does 50% damage, 50% of his HP times zero point 0.5 to the other team. So yeah, and then on top of that, if anyone's still left alive, he he does a sleep ability as well. So, but he can't crit this, so that's important to note that he can't crit with this ability. I don't know. I don't know. This champion is I don't know. I think he's good. But I don't know how good though. I just I don't know. I really love his A2 though. His A2 is fantastic. And this would just make for a really good nuke, but I mean, you're looking. Hopefully, the other team is below 50% when you do it, and he's not. But his A1 does help him heal. I don't know. I like his kit. I really do like his kit, but I don't know if he's actually going to be better than some of the other or some of the other champions out there. His aura is increases ally hit points in all battles by 30%. So just to round him out. So yeah, I don't know. I like him. Put in the comments, guys, what you guys think about him. See if you think that where he would be good, and what you would like to see him do, and go from there. So this next legendary, I mean, I guess he's so far down the scale from being used that he doesn't even have a name yet. Currently, he is Hero 3910. All right, so he looks pretty good. He's another orc. He is a spirit affinity, which I think we looked at that before, and we actually needed spirit affinity orcs. Hey, we do. Awesome. Okay, so that's good to know that they are actually bringing. They do have plans for a spirit affinity orc, at least. He looks kind of neat. He's got a big two-handed glaive, looks like, or two-handed poleaxe, whatever that may be. His stats are pretty good. He is an attack-based champion, but I believe his abilities are based on defense. So he's got a strong defense, a pretty good attack, and pretty good HP. His speed is a little on the low side. Everything else is pretty standard. So let's get into his kit. All right, so his A1 is on a 3.3 multiplier. And oh, it is based on attack. Sorry, it is based on attack. He attacks one enemy one time. He heals self for 10% of the max HP. Grants an extra turn if the target was killed. Okay, so that's pretty good. So it's a self heal and an extra turn if he kills someone. So that's good. His A2 is two different multipliers. So he's got a 3.2 multiplier and a zero point 0.5 multiplier. So he attacks all enemies one time. So that's probably the 3.2. And then damage self for 50% HP if can kill the producer. It can kill the producer. Okay, so this is bad wording probably because he's still being worked on. So he's probably going to be one that's really going to be drastically changed by the time we actually see him in production. So Anyway, so he damages himself by 50% of his hit points, and it could kill him. So he will do the ability even if it does kill him. And then it places two continuous heal 15% buffs for 2 turns. So he places two 15% continuous heal buffs on him for 2 turns. Damage is based on attack and HP. Oh, okay. So I see. So the 3.2 is based on the attack, and the point 0.5 is based on the HP. It's on a 5 turn cooldown, and it books down to a 4 turn cooldown. I like it. That's not bad at all. And I appreciate the fact that they put the two multipliers to show the attack and HP, and that should hit pretty hard. Actually, that should hit pretty hard. But the fact that it damages him too, um, yeah, I hope it does hit hard because of that. So, all right, his A3 is on a 7 turn cooldown, books down to 5 turn cooldown, damages self for 50% HP. Okay, so another one that damages him. This can't kill the producer. Even if hit points with an enemy, even hit points with an enemy doesn't work on boss. Okay, so this is a hit point exchange, I believe. Then grants an extra turn. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, I dig it. So basically, he damages himself by 50%. So this is a pretty cheesy combo. He does his first ability, his A2, which damages himself. As long as he's still alive, he's still up. And then his turn comes around. If he's still not dead, he can damage himself again, go down to 1 hit point because this ability cannot kill him. And then he evens HP with an enemy. So basically, he does kind of like Senesha does. So he chooses an enemy, and he adds his health to their health, and then they even it out to where they're at the exact same health. So I like it. I think it'd be better if it was a switch health, where if he switched his health with someone else's health, I think that would make that ability really good. Because of it being on a 5 turn cooldown, you're probably only going to get it. You're probably only going to use it once in the game. So, but in the fight, but I like it. I think it's it's fun. I think it would be a fun ability. And then the fact that it grants an extra turn is also really good because that allows him to counter with something else on top of that. All right, so his final ability looks like it's a passive, and it's a revive self with 50% HP and full stamina. With full stamina? Yeah, okay. Um, I guess that's energy they're talking about. Revive self with 50% HP and full stamina. If this hero is the only one dead, okay, so yeah, it's written funny. So revive self with 50% HP and full stamina if this hero is the only one dead hero in the team. Works only if team contains 4 or more heroes. So you can't just have him be the only one on the team and every time he dies he just self resurrects, because yeah, that would be pretty broken. Cool loophole though. Glad they figured that one out before they put him in production. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I'm not. I assume stamina is going to be the speed. Um, he's yeah. That's all I can guess that stamina is. But anyway, yeah. I mean that's kind of cool. So he could do his explosion, from his A2, and if it does kill him, he self revives if he's the only one that's dead, and then the next turn he does his uh, his A3, which allows him to uh, drop down to zero because he'll be at 50% health. He'll drop down to zero and then and then equalize with someone on the other team. So I don't know. It seems like that could be pretty annoying to face someone on the other team like this. So I like it. I think it's a cool concept for a hero, especially a legendary. So I don't know. I like it a lot. I think it's pretty cool. So put in the comments what you guys think about that guy. And all right, so that's all the legendaries we've got. So now let's go and check out the epics. All right, so our first epic is from the Dwarf faction, and it is Runekeeper Dazdirk. All right, so Runekeeper Dazdirk is a Void champ, which we always like Void champs. He is a support champ, and he doesn't look too bad. He looks kind of cool, actually. All right, so let's take a look at the dwarves. So he is an epic. So they've got one of each of the basic affinities, and they already have two void champs already. So adding a third, okay. I'd much rather him be one of the other affinities, but I'm okay with him being void as well. So that's all right. All right, so let's get into his kit. So first off, his stats are pretty good. I mean, for a support, having high defense and high base hit points, pretty good. Really good speed. Of course, that makes sense for support. And all the other stuff is stereotypical. All right, so his A1 is attacks one enemy, has a 35% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns, and it's based on defense. Fantastic. That means and his multiplier is 3.3. So that might even hit pretty hard. And then on top, because you're going to build him with high defense and high HP anyway, because he's a support champ. So it makes sense. So, and then he places Leech, which also is going to help sustain the rest of your team with healing. So I don't know, it's pretty good, especially in a boss fight. I think it's going to be really good. It's only 33%, it's only 35%, but books up to 45% chance to land the Leech. So it's not going to be 100% of the time, but I mean, it's still going to help. Alright, his A2 is fills the turn meters of all allies by 25%, which is even better than Apothecary's, because Apothecary's only 15%, and places a 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. Alright, so my only concern here, and it books down to a 3-turn cooldown. So my only concern here is I wish that it gave him an extra turn. And the reason I say that is because, one, he's a support champ, not an attack champ, so we don't care that if he gets increased attack. So we don't care if he blows one of his turns with increased attack because he gets an extra turn. What we do care about is that we want, because he's not adding speed buff to all of this, we're not getting a lot. I mean, I don't know. I'm torn. What do you guys think? Because Apothecary does a similar thing, but he only does 15%. But he does speed. He adds a speed buff, increased speed buff, instead of the increased attack buff. So increased speed is definitely more important than the increased attack, unless you have another increased speed champ in your group and you need that extra increased attack. So I don't know. It's kind of up in the air for me. If he was on your clan boss team and you had a champ to already do your increased speed, then he might be another champ for that. But then you're running into how many support champs are you going to have on your clan boss team? I don't know. I'm torn. I'm torn. I like the idea of there being a dwarf that can heal and boost your speed up a little bit. But then there's the other side of that is that um, there's the Batman comp for clan boss where there is no speed boost or speed buff that you have to worry about. It's all Seeker who's just boosting your turn meter, and that's basically what this guy's doing. Other than Molly, reviving and adding to turn meter, and this guy reviving when he dies, there's no permanent or no dedicated support champ that revives, and no dedicated support champ that uh, speeds up your team. So for faction wars, that's one place where the dwarves are lacking, I believe, is a speed increase champ. And then on top of that, you've got, I mean, he will obviously be a a a needed support champ, a needed support champ for the dwarves, because he will be an easier access. It's always easier to attain a epic than it is to obtain a legendary, even though he is a void. But I mean, he does increase the turn meter, so that's always great when it comes to a support champ. And then the important part here, the another important part with this champ is his A3, which is A3 is something else that the dwarves are lacking. He removes all debuffs from all allies. Fantastic. Gotta love cleanse. Then heals all allies by 25% of the champion's max HP. Places a 15% continuous heal buff for 2 turns on allies that have a debuff removed. So, awesome. I mean, just great. It books down to a 4 turn. Wish that was a 3 turn, but that's all right. Books down to a 4 turn, and as you put your books into him to get to that lower cooldown, your heals get bigger. So great. I mean, fantastic. He is a strong champ. I love him. I think he's going to be a great addition to the dwarves. Um, I really do like his A2. I just wish it was just slightly better, just to be similar to a lot more closer to Seekers. But I guess you don't want people or champions to have the same abilities, so it's similar to Seekers, but not exact. So I get why they did what they did. So, all right. And then his aura is increases ally attack in all battles by 25%. So another attack aura. So we don't really care about attack auras all that much, unless we're needing it for a specific job, but it's not one that you're going to use a lot. All right, then our next champion is from the Lizardman faction, and his name is Nazarmak. He looks like he's just another skin of Razin. So, green with a green mohawk. Okay, I could dig it. He is a defense-based champion, and he is a void champ. All right, let's take a look at the lizard folk. So he is a void champ, which is okay because they have a pretty good spread when it comes to their epic champs. Now, with that being said, their epic champs aren't all that great. I mean, obviously he's really good. So Jareg is really good. All the others are meh. So yeah, he'll make a great addition right here in the void areas. And let's get into his kit. So first off, his stats are okay. His base stats are pretty good. His base speeds, meh, it's not as good. His A1 is based on a 2.5 uh, multiplier. Its attacks one enemy, has a 25% chance of placing a 2.5% poison debuff for 2 turns. Places an extra hit if the target is under a poison debuff. Okay, that's pretty cool. It books up to 50% chance, but unfortunately, it's only the baby poison. I feel with the power creep that's going on with this game, I feel that that should be a 5% poison. Uh, the fact that this is an epic that's only at a 2.5 based on defense. Actually, 2.5 based on defense is pretty strong, but 2.5 based on defense, multiplier based on defense, with only a 50% chance when booked to place a 2.5 poison. Now, yeah, I don't know. I think that should definitely be a point. I think that should be a 5% poison. All right. Then his A2 is attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn if the target is under a poison debuff. Places a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns. That's cool. I dig it. And it's a 3.0 multiplier. It's on a 4-turn cooldown that books down a lot of books down to a 3-turn. So that's 7 books in the A2. Ouch. But has a 50% chance of placing the provoke, and that books up to a 75% chance of placing a provoke, and it's an AoE provoke. This is going to be a solid champ. I mean, yeah. This is going to be a solid champ, guys, with a counter attack. Makes him a counter attacker and a provoker. Yeah, I like it. I like it. And poison. Holy mackerel. Yeah, I get it. I get it. All right, so his A3 it's a passive, and when attacked, has a 5% chance of placing, there's my 5% poison debuff on the attacker, receives 15% less damage from enemies under poison debuff. I know you can't see it, but my mouth just hit the floor. I don't know if you heard the thump. That is fantastic. Holy crap, that's good. I love it. I mean, he's going to be great for clan boss. He obviously his A2 won't work on clan boss, but the rest of his kit's going to be great for clan boss. He's probably going to hit like a Mac truck because he's based on defense. He's going to be tanky. He's going to be beefy. Oh my god. That is just fantastic. He's a solid champ. I like that. Tell me in the comments what you guys think of that guy. His aura is increase ally resist in all battles by 40%. So, solid champ. Alright, so our next epic is Crowned Druid. So, it's of the Lizardmen faction. He is Spirit Affinity, and he is a support champ. So, let's take a look at the Lizardmen faction. So, yeah, we could probably use another Force champion, but Spirit faction's not that bad. Besides, like I said before, the Lizardmen can definitely use some love. So, seeing new champs from the Lizardmen is always a help. So, let's see. Let's look at his stats here. We've got pretty good HP, pretty good defense, good speed, which you want to see on a support champ anyway, and everything else is pretty much average or pretty much typical of everyone else. All right. So his A1 is a 4.0 modifier. Tax one enemy has a 30% chance of increasing the duration of a random buff on a random ally for one turn. Meh. I. Meh. If it was a random buff on all allies, so each ally had one random buff increased, I would like that better. But with it being on his A1, it's okay. I'm not sure if it's something that I'm gonna, want to put in all my teams. So anyway, let's see what his A2 looks like. Heals all allies by 15% of their max HP, and places a shield buff equal to 15% of their max HP on all allies for 2 turns. So it's all going to be based on the HP of the people in or the champions in your team. So maybe good, maybe not so good. I'm not sure. So, and it's on a 4 turn cooldown, which books down to a 3 turn cooldown. I don't know. I don't necessarily care for skills or abilities that are based on your target's HP when it's a buff, and the main reason is because you don't know who your team makeup's going to be. But when you can set it up to where it's based on the person performing that skills max ability, then that's or max stat, then that's better because you can it doesn't matter who's in your team composition. You build up their stat and it's based off of that, so it's good, good to go. But it doesn't always work the same when it's based on the target's max HP when it's a friendly ability like a buff. So I don't know. That's a shot in the dark on how good that's going to be. All right, his eighth places a perfect veil buff on and a 50% increased attack buff for 2 turns on all allies whose attack is higher than their defense. Interesting. So anyone who has a higher attack value than their defense is going to get a perfect veil and a 50% increase attack for 2 turns. That's actually pretty good as long as your team composition. So it seems like all of his abilities are going to be really working around his team composition. So you're going to have to build a team around this guy. Now, he also places a 60% increased defense buff for 2 turns and a block debuffs buff for 1 turn on all allies whose defense is higher than their attack. Okay, so interesting. So it doesn't matter what your team makeup is, they're going to get something. So it really just depends on what you want your team makeup to be. So if you want to design your team to be an attack based team, you can go the perfect veil route. But if you want to go the tankier team, you can go the block debuffs and increased defense route. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like it. I mean, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about that champ? I think it's an interesting concept. I think since it's in a team or a faction that is not so deep, meaning it doesn't have a lot of champions to choose from, a lot of good champions to choose from. it I don't know. It might be worth taking a look at. All right, so let's get into the next champ here. The next champ is of the Sacred Order faction, and he is Inquisitor Shamel. Shamel? Shamel? Shamel. Shamel. We'll go with Gesundheit. All right, he is an attack-based champion. He is Void Affinity. All right, so let's take a look at the Sacred Order. So this is a deep faction. So this is the example of a deep faction. There are tons of champs to choose from, tons of good champs to choose from, and he's another void, which they have plenty of magic. I mean, they've got plenty of everything. I mean, they only have 3 spirit, but they only have 2 void. So, yeah, I mean, him being a void is actually a pretty good choice. And it's actually good to see a champion of color, to be perfectly honest. All right, so his stats. He's got really, really low defense, but for most attack champions, that's typical. And actually, 900's not very low for an attack champion. His speed is fantastic, and the rest of his stuff is okay. But his HP and attack are both very good. All right, let's get into his kit. All right, his A1 is on a 2.9 modifier. It attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of decreasing the duration of a random buff on the target for 1 turn. Counterattacks with this skill each time an enemy places a debuff on an ally. That's awesome. These counterattacks will only deal 50% of the normal damage and cannot be critical. Alright, so my only concern here is how, and the only reason why I say my only concern is because we all know how Polarium always seems to screw things up when it comes to implementing new things. This is actually the ability is actually similar to one of the masteries. But my question is how they're going to do it when you already have counterattack on. Is that going to interfere, and is it going to read it as the 50% damage? So if it wasn't for the 50% damage, I wouldn't care. And the reason is because, like I said, there's already a mastery that works exactly like this, and then of course there's the counter attack abilities. So not a big deal. My biggest deal is the 50% normal damage and cannot be critical. All that stuff. I only worry that if this dude is floating along with Martyr, who's in his faction, and he gets hit, and his counterattack from Martyr procs, is he only going to do 50% and no critical damage? Now, as written, he should do normal damage and etc. But with Polarium always screwing things up with their programming, I just fear that guy's stuff is not going to work when placed with a counter attacker. So that's my only fear with the way that his ability works. So, all right, so let's move on to his A2. All right, so his A2 is based on a 2.0 modifier, and it attacks one enemy 3 times, which we like that. We like abilities that attack multiple times. Will ignore 25% of the target's defense. Will ignore a further 25% of the target's defense for each buff on this champion. Okay. Places a true fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn if this champion kills an enemy. Okay. So I like it. So you pair him with someone who adds buffs. Now, Now, in most cases, I don't like champions. I don't like abilities, not champions. I don't like abilities that have to have another champion on their team to activate their ability. Like, for instance, Ultimate Gaelic, and he has to have an increased attack for his HP burns to work. I don't care for those kind of abilities. This one's okay because most of the time, in most cases, you have champions that are increasing your speed, increasing your defense, putting up block debuffs, things like that anyway. So if you're doing that anyway, then he gets an additional 25% defense ignored for each of those. So Sifi, for example, who puts up three buffs all at the same time, he then ignores this ability. Then ignores 100% of the enemy's defense, and he hits them 3 times. This is definitely a Rotus killer. If yeah, I mean, just absolutely a Rotus killer because he's hitting him 3 times, so he bypasses that stupid Rotus bull crap of you can't do too much damage to me because I just stopped the damage coming in ability of his. So because he does it, the first one stops the damage, and then the second one slash third one will kill him. So yeah, I mean that's, and then on top of that, if he does kill someone with it, he all the other he places a true fear. There's no chance to do it. He just places a true fear on all the rest of the enemies. That's a good solid ability right there. That is really good actually. All right, his A3 is a passive, and it is each critical hit fills this champion's turn meter by 7.5%. That's pretty good. I wonder if that means when he hits with his A2 and it hits 3 times and you've got a 100% crit rate, will that increase your turn meter by 22.5%? I mean, that's cool. I like it. Doesn't seem like a lot, but in the grand schemes of things, yeah, it does. It's that's good. That's good. All right, and then whenever an ally receives a fear or true fear debuff, this skill will instantly remove the debuff and fill the ally's turn meter by 15%. Now that's awesome. That is great. Because, yeah, fear and true fear are both incredibly strong debuffs, incredibly strong. And when you've got champs like Mashalad and Madame Series and Miscreated Monster, I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. That's a great ability. I love that passive. That's strong, 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 strong. I really like this champ. Yeah, he's a solid champ. Tell me in the comments, guys, what you guys think about that champ. He's kind of fantastic. I'd love to get my mitts on that guy. All right, and then the last hero here is going to be again another hero that is so far from being in the game, he doesn't even have a name yet. His name so far is Hero 3660. Alright, so he is of the Orc persuasion. He is a Void champ. Let's take a look at the Orcs again. So he is Void. There's only one Void Orc epic right now in the game, so he has a place there, so that's good. All right, and then his stats, he's got pretty good HP, pretty good attack, he's got really low defense, he is an attack-based champ, he's got a not so great speed, and everything else is the same as everyone else's. All right, so let's get into his kit. His A1 is based off of a 2.3 modifier. He attacks all enemies with 1 hit, places bomb with 50% chance for 3 turns. So I'm not sure if that's just weirdly written because this is still a work in progress. Attacks all enemies with 1 hit. Okay, so he hits everybody, and then places a bomb with a 50% chance for 3 turns. Oh, okay. Oh, so I get it. It places a bomb for. There's a 50% chance to place the bomb, and then it's placed for 3 turns. So that means at the end of 3 turns, it explodes. My guess is once they actually get him in play, once this guy sees play, he's going to that'd be worded better. Is what I'm to guess. All right, and then his A2 is places increase attack 50%. Okay, so it places a 50% increased attack buff for 3 turns, grants additional turn, detonates all bombs. Okay, that's cool. I like that. And it's on a 5-turn cooldown that books down to a 4-turn cooldown. So it places an increased 50% increased attack for 3 turns, and then you get an extra turn, and it detonates all bombs. That's pretty cool. So sticking him on building a bomb team with this guy would definitely be advantageous, I think. He would definitely make that a possibility to make bombs actually mean something, because now, whatever. All right, so his A3 is on a 5.8 modifier, and it attacks single enemy with 1 hit. So it attacks one enemy, places a stun for 2 turns. All right, so obviously this one is not quite done yet because it's a 4-turn cooldown, books down to a 3-turn cooldown, but apparently he places other stuff too. It's just not listed in the description. So the block buffs and the block cooldown skills, things like that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, if his A3 lands all of these things, the stun, the block buffs, and the block cooldown skills, I mean, that's really good. So yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how they actually finish this guy off and how his abilities work. Because dropping those 3 debuffs, especially for in arena, they're kind of some of the strongest debuffs in the game for arena. So yeah, on a 3-turn cooldown, that'd be pretty strong. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do. So, I mean, the fact that it's only a single target means that he's he's not gonna be used a lot. But when you do get him, especially if you're early game, then he's definitely gonna be helpful. Definitely gonna be helpful. All right, and then finally, his aura is increases ally attack in arena by 32%. So yeah, so he seems like a pretty solid champ. Let me know in the comments what you think about him. And that's pretty much it, guys. The one last thing I do want to bring up is I'd like to thank Panda Killer on. You can find his channel on YouTube. He was the one that discovered all this stuff months and months and months ago. So just want to give a shout out to him because if not for him, we obviously wouldn't have this information. So thank you, Panda Killer. And then so you guys should go check him out. And then other than that, if you like this video and you want to see more, hit like and subscribe. And I appreciate every single one of you. And we'll see you on a video soon.